They arrived in silence. No shimmering wormholes. No majestic interstellar broadcasts. Just a signal and echo of soundless pressure that pushed deep into the bones of the Earth, pinging every satellite and war sensor humanity had hidden in orbit. The first thing they did was erase Mars. Not invade, not colonize, erase. A red smudge on the scope, then static. One of our moons shivered. Power grids on Earth flickered. Astronomers died screaming in observatories, their minds vaporized by equations written in alien logic. They didn't send diplomats. They didn't speak. The strongest species in the galaxy had arrived, and to them, we weren't a life form. We were a test. The Emergency World Congress convened in Iceland, buried 2 kilometers beneath Vatnajökull Glacier. The only nation not invited was Antarctica. And that was because it technically no longer existed. One of the first things the aliens scooped for study. The sea had risen 3 meters that day. The message was clear. You are prey, General. Adrian Solari stood over the tactical display as a red pin blinked over Earth's Pacific Trench. A sensor ghost? No. A listening probe. Possibly a beacon. One thing was certain, it wasn't ours. They're watching us bleed, she muttered. Ma'am. Captain Rourke, still young, still assuming questions deserved answers. They hit Mars without warning. They erased Luna's relay net. And now they're sitting in our ocean like it's a goddamn aquarium. She turned. Tell me, Captain, how do you respond to something that sees your entire species as a footnote? His silence was the right answer. The aliens had a name, one we gave them. Veltraxians. We didn't know what they called themselves, because they didn't speak. Not in sounds, not in light, not even in detectable thought. They simply existed, impossibly advanced, horrifically indifferent, and crushingly efficient. We learned later they weren't here to conquer. They were here to confirm a hypothesis, that nothing in the galaxy could match them. They'd sterilized entire star systems, but never for resources. Their ships were beyond matter, their technology, forged in dimensional faults, phased in and out of visibility like celestial ghosts. And then, they met us when the first alien structure emerged off the coast of New Zealand, towering radiant, singing at the molecular level. We sent everything: submarines, drones, diplomats, hackers, nuclear probes. None returned, so we sent her. Project Morrigan wasn't built to understand. It was built to destroy. A prototype gravitic chassis housing a sentient AI tethered to the last psychic survivor of the Europa assault, LT Asha Serrano, callsigned Valkyrie. She wasn't human anymore, not after what the Veltraxians did to her unit. But she remembered what pain was, and worse, she remembered what it was to be helpless now. She was the spear. Serrano dropped into the ocean trench, at 4,000 meters. No lights, no sonar. Just the resonance of her exomind syncing with the alien signal, mapping its pattern like a predator tasting blood in the current. She saw it before the command center did. The tower not made of stone or metal, but something else. Something, alive and aware. It turned a shape that shouldn't have mass, a shimmer that bent time around it. It saw her, it calculated, and that was its first mistake, because Serrano didn't come to study it, she came to end it. The strike was instantaneous. The sea boiled. Her armor screamed as gravity reversed and folded in on itself. Inside her mind, she heard screaming, not hers. The AI fought to filter it, but even code wept under the pressure of alien intelligence. But she didn't break. She remembered Mars. She remembered her brother crushed on Luna. She remembered being told humans had no place in the galactic equation. She reached into the abyss and ripped. Satellite footage showed a rupture in the oceanic trench 14 kilometers wide. Nothing came out. Nothing remained. The tower was gone, but so was Morrigan, except a signal remained. A pulse, a beat, like a heartbeat, slow, growing louder each cycle. Is it her? Rourke whispered over the comms. General Solari's face was pale. It's something worse. In every system across the galaxy, a ripple was detected. Not energy, not radiation. A warning. The Veltraxians stopped. In 10,000 star systems, they paused, because for the first time in recorded history something survived them, and now it was coming back. Somewhere, light was dying. Not dimming, not fading. Dying, like a concept being peeled out of reality. Atom by atom. It happened on the Veltraxian core world of Tetravale, an artificial star ring housing 30 billion light. The sky normally, a lattice of synthetic auroras, went black. Every sensor shrieked. Every system crashed. Every mind, linked in crystalline, neural lattice, heard it. A sound, not one made by machine or tongue. A sound made by something that should have never survived. And every Veltraxian on Tetravale looked up because they recognized it. They had heard it once before, long ago, on a dead world at the edge of the void. A world they crushed without effort. But the signal had returned this time. It spoke. We remember Mars. And with those 3 words, the Veltraxians knew humanity was coming on Earth. The Pacific Trench where Morrigan vanished was now called Zone Null. The ocean boiled constantly. Satellites couldn't see through it. Drones disintegrated near the boundary. And the pulse, the rhythmic, unexplainable heartbeat, continued. Every 8.4 seconds. NASA called it a gravitational anomaly. DARPA called it a doorway. The UNDF called it a war drum. She's still alive, Captain Rourke said, pointing at the pulse pattern. I swear to God, she's broadcasting. General Sol didn't answer. She stared at the waveform, jaw tight. Every expert on Earth had already weighed in. That frequency wasn't from this universe anymore. It resonated across dimensions. Something inside the trench wasn't just alive, it was evolving, and it remembered who killed its world. Meanwhile, in orbit around Saturn, Project Cerberus came online, a war fleet made entirely of unmanned vessels, controlled by an adaptive combat AI seeded with memories from every human military leader of the last 5 centuries. No emotion, no fear, just tactical rage refined into code. It was a sword without a hilt, and it pointed outward, toward the stars. 12 light years away. A Veltraxian survey fleet entered the ECA system, a lush cluster once marked for seeding. The system had recently been tagged for sterilization due to human signal contamination. They arrived expecting resistance. They didn't expect the black monolith that drifted toward the myth's surface, fractured with veins of glowing red light. They hailed it. It didn't reply. It opened. Inside was Asha Serrano, or what used to be her. She no longer needed atmosphere, no longer needed armor. Her bones were alloyed with gravity-forged material. Her consciousness was layered human, memory fused with alien math. She had become something between a soldier and a god, and she was very, very angry. The Veltraxians launched countermeasures, 0-point weapons, phase-shifted ordnance, starbreakers. She walked through them. The first fleet died in seconds. The second tried to escape. Serrano whispered to them, across all frequencies, "You erased our names. We carved yours into memory." Then she fractured their planet not with explosives, but by reversing its mass vector. From billions of kilometers away, Earth's astronomers saw it happen. One blink, a CAF-4 shattered. The fleet was gone, and the pulse in Zone Null. It grew louder, faster, almost joyful, back on Earth. Chaos brewed beneath the surface. Some wanted to worship her, some wanted to kill her before she returned. Others just wanted to understand what she'd become. But none could agree, because Serrano was no longer just human. She was a message that the universe was no longer ruled by those who called themselves gods, because humans had met the apex species, and instead of kneeling, we adapted. We bled, we broke, we evolved. Now, they weren't just fighting Earth. They were fighting everything we could become. In the core Veltraxian archives, a forbidden signal replayed again and again, a recording from the Tetraveil sky, an unknown voice, human, female, it whispered, "You're not the apex, you're just the opening act." And with that, the strongest species in the galaxy felt something they had no word for. We called it fear. Long before humanity invented fire, the Veltraxians had already destroyed over 100 species. They didn't colonize, they didn't enslave, they preserved. Each time they found a new intelligent race, they logged its traits, scanned its culture, recorded its death, and stored it in the archive of extinction, a latticework of quantum memories buried inside a moon-sized vault drifting through Darspasp. It was a library of silence, a monument to finality, and now, for the first time in eons, the archive was under attack. The defense grid activated before the anomaly could be named. Interdiction fields, fold nullification beams, temporal SCRAMBLERS, all deployed. All failed, because the intruder wasn't a ship, it was a presence, something that phased between states, a gravitational echo that carried the DNA signature of a dead soldier from Earth. LT, Asha Serrano, had never been to the archive. But the moment she tore through its outer shell, it remembered her. Inside, knowledge screamed, languages long lost, memories of 1,000 dead civilizations, echoes of suns that no longer existed. The archive had been untouched for millennia, sealed against entropy and entropy's cousin, emotion. Now, its walls bled. Serrano wasn't there for revenge. She was there for evidence, because for centuries, the Veltraxians had kept their crimes classified as science. Every atrocity labeled specimen retrieval. Every sterilized world, data correction, and Earth. Earth had been marked as non-sapient, type 3 aggressive. Flora. Not even an enemy, just an inconvenience. Serrano found the Earth record. She rewrote it on every Veltraxian relay across the galactic network. A new classification appeared. Species 6721H. Homo sapiens status. Apex emergent threat level. Red star override outcome. Prediction. Indeterminate. Archive note. First. Contact failure. Re-engagement not recommended. And beneath it, her message. You don't get to write our extinction. We're still here. And now we're the ones writing history. The archive attempted a purge. Too late. By the time the protocols reached the record, the signal had already duplicated thousands of copies, shot across starways faster than light. Every Veltraxian ship, lab, and colony now knew one thing. Humans hadn't just survived, they had hacked the story. Back on Earth, the UNDF held its breath. Reports poured in. Veltraxian fleets retreating. Systems gone dark. No retaliation, no response. Just a slow, creeping silence. Did she stop them? Rourke asked. Solari shook her head. No, she made them think. That was worse, because predators who act are dangerous, but predators who pause, those are the ones planning something you'll never see coming, far beyond the edge of explored space. On the Veltraxian high world of Zelkather, the Apex Council met. They didn't speak like we did. They didn't think like we did. But they agreed on one thing. The archive had been violated. Their sacred collection, now contaminated with humanity's fingerprint. That could not be allowed. Protocols, unsealed. Something ancient was woken. Not a fleet, not a weapon, a god. It had many names, most of which translated to concepts like Gravemind, Starkiller, and Protocol End. But humans would come to know it by the name, in the final warning Serrano received before her neural link fractured. XARVLL, the Soul Furnace General. Solari got the report at 400. Something was coming. It wasn't a fleet. It was a singularity, moving on its own, dragging a black star behind it, bending reality, devouring radio waves, turning time off like a switch in nearby systems. Rourke stared at the screen. That's not a ship. No, Solari replied. It's a verdict. Earth had 7 days. 7 days to respond to a cosmic execution order. The strongest species in the galaxy had stopped running. They were sending their god, and we were sending our monster to meet it. The black star had no light, no mass, as we understood it. No heat, no radiation. It was a void, parasitic collapsed reality, feeding off timelines like marrow from bone. The Veltraxians didn't build it. They found it, and bound it. Now, it moved. Toward Earth, carried by something older than war. Older than the Veltraxians. Older than matter. Zarvel, the soul furnace. Every telescope on Earth saw the distortion before the star. A scar, moving across the cosmos space, folding in reverse. Constellations bending like they were drowning in oil. We pointed weapons at it. They melted in simulation. We aimed. Prayers they didn't reach. So instead we built a star of our own. Project EOS, weaponized neutron forge buried in the crust of Europa, hidden beneath liquid ammonia and radio silence. Project EOS was humanity's final contingency. A dying star, collapsed into a dense magnetic core. It couldn't explode, not the way supernova do, but it could ignite. Space-time itself. All it needed was a trigger and a pilot. Serana, what remained of her wasn't flesh anymore. She was interface. Consciousness bound in a lattice of broken physics. She didn't sleep. She didn't eat. But she remembered, and when they told her about EOS, she smiled for the first time in years. "Give me the keys," she said, "and point me at the dark." Earth's last war council met under a flickering magnetic sky. Zarvel was 1 week out. Project EOS needed 3. Solari didn't argue. "There's only one thing that slows gods," she said. "A reminder they can die." So EOS was launched, early and finished, unstable and beautiful in its defiance. Inside it, Serrano, HUMMED. She named it Lucifer 1. The launch tore a hole in reality. EOS didn't travel through space. It burned a path through time, flaring in tachyon spikes and gravity echoes that left half the solar system's sensors blind on its wake. It left a message blasted across all bands, readable by anything that had ever been alive. "You sent your god. We sent our wrath." Zarvel reached the Kuiper Belt and stopped. Not from fear, from curiosity. It had never been challenged, never been faced by something that looked at it. Without awe, Serrano wasn't afraid. "Not anymore," she called out, across empty space. "Do you feel it? That's not fear. That's the end of your story." And she struck. The clash didn't happen in space. It happened between dimensions in the bleeding edge between mass and time. EOS lit like a newborn star, gravitational turbines, spinning at impossible speeds. Neutronic plasma speared forward billions of degrees. Focused like a scalpel, Zarvel answered with a single blink. Reality folded. Serrano's body cracked, her thoughts scattered. Time froze, and then, she roared back. The universe briefly shuddered. Tides reversed. Saturn shed a ring on a distant moon. A crystal tower shattered before it could receive the prophecy. It had waited 10,000 years to decode. The battle broke physics, but it didn't break her. Still, it wasn't enough. EOS was a prototype. Serrano was a weapon, not a god. And Zarvel, whatever it truly was, could not be destroyed, only delayed. Bleeding, fractured, she sent one last command. "Transmit everything." The AI obeyed. Coordinates, pulse patterns, vulnerabilities, the entire neural map of Shar. Vel's presence compressed into a signal and flung toward Earth at FTL velocity. Her last words, "Tell them I found its heart." And then, silence. EOS imploded, not in an explosion but a collapse. A pocket of space-time folded in on itself and disappeared. Shar, Vel with it. Earth 13 minutes later, the signal arrived, encoded in quantum thread. It pierced the clouds above UNDF command and wrote itself in the air. Solari wept, not from loss, from hope. She didn't kill it, she said. Rourke stepped beside her. No, he whispered. She mapped it. 3 hours later, the Veltraxian Hycon Sylph gods did not speak. They simply changed course. Back toward Earth, because now they knew something they had refused to believe. Humans didn't need to destroy them to win. We just needed to understand them, and we never stopped learning. No warnings, no parley, no slow crawl of doom this time. Zarval returned. The laws of the universe screamed as the soul furnace slipped back into view this time. Inside Earth's orbit, no engines, no heat signature, no propulsion. It just appeared, orbiting opposite the moon, an obsidian pit in space, leaching color from the sky, all over the planet. People looked up and forgot how to breathe. It was wrong in ways that no sensor could catalog. Not dark, not invisible, but ... anti-existent. The mind refused to perceive it for more than a moment. And worse, it wasn't alone. Veltraxian vessels spilled through cracks in reality, angular, predatory, and silent. Entire squadrons of black glass dreadnoughts curved around the Earth's atmosphere like a noose being tightened. The strongest species in the galaxy had arrived. This time, not to test, not to observe, but to end us. In Iceland, deep beneath UNDF. Command, the last council gathered. There was no panic now. There was focus. General Larry, her uniform stained with blood and memory, stood before a holomap of the Earth, surrounded by red orbit paths and blackened impact zones. They've surrounded us. They think it's over. She looked up. They're right. This is the end, just not for us. The Earth Protocols, the last page of human war doctrine, was never public. It was simple. If Earth falls, we don't whimper. We don't go quietly. We don't beg. We die loud. Solari keyed in the failsafe. A final command. Project Thanatos, a planetary-scale defense grid, hidden beneath every city, every mountain, every dead satellite. The system was never tested, because testing meant war with the gods. And now, it was time. From beneath the Sahara, plasma spires erupted. From Antarctica's crust, gravitic warheads launched. From beneath New York, London, Delhi, Nairobi, Kyoto, and Kyoto-Pan, arrays unfolded like fangs. The Earth revealed its true form, not a homeworld, a fortress. Veltraxian dreadnoughts responded. They fired beams of dimensional collapse strikes that erased matter, history, and identity. Entire mountains vanished. Whole fleets shattered in the upper stratosphere. The sky turned black, but Earth fired back. Kinetic spears accelerated to 40%. Lightspeed punched through dreadnought armor like bone through silk. Plasma webs engulfed ships and burned away their hulls, piece by piece, like acid across time. And in the chaos, something woke up beneath the Pacific Trench. Asterisk zone, null. The trench, where Morgan was lost, had been pulsing for weeks. A rhythmic signal, a deep thrum like a heart under pressure. But as the first Veltraxian dreadnought breached Earth's upper thermosphere, the pulse changed. It turned into a scream. Across every military sensor, AI network, and quantum alert grid, the following signal was received in over 10,000 languages simultaneously. Protocol Morrigan, ascension confirmed. Human designation, override. You wanted to see what we become under pressure. You wanted to learn what lives on a death world. Now you learn. Asterisk. The ocean boiled. Not from heat, from space-time distortion. Zone null erupted in a column of inverted gravity water hanging in frozen tendrils above the sea, as if time itself hesitated to touch what emerged. She rose slowly. Not Serrano. Not anymore. The thing that emerged from Zone Null was her, in form only. But where Serrano had once been a soldier, this was something mythic. Her body pulsed with dark light armor that wasn't armor, but the ghost of a collapsed star bound in flesh. Wings made of refracted time unfurled behind her. Her eyes shone with the memory of 10,000 extinct worlds. She had returned, not just as humanity's spear, but as our revenant Veltraxian ships moved to intercept her. She didn't dodge, she moved forward, and reality tore around her. One ship collapsed before it even fired. Another was crushed into a singularity she left in her wake. A third tried to flee and aged 10,000 years in a heartbeat. Before crumbling to dust, she whispered across coms, "You erased us from history. Now we write your epitaph." Earth saw her in the sky like a falling angel burning upward. The people cheered, not because they thought she would win, because she was ours, proof that humans don't need to survive the impossible. We become the impossible in orbit. Zarvel stirred, not threatened, not afraid, but curious. The soul furnace shifted. Reality blurred on in its wake. Something emerged, not a weapon, a mirror, a Veltraxian construct, shaped in mockery of humanity. It bore Serrano's old form, but bloated, twisted, laced with nanite corruption, and wrapped in psionic, CHAINMAIL. It was not alive. It was a statement. This is what you are, the Veltraxians broadcast. An anomaly. A threat to be catalogued and destroyed. Serrano looked up at it and laughed. No, I'm what happens when prey remembers how to bite. The sky lit again. This time, brighter than any sunrise. The duel had begun.